So we're going to go to California. Our next two speakers are married. Srimati Kilimba Didi, followed by her husband, Sriman Radhanatha Prabhu. I just want to say, well, I'll give you the facts first and then share something personal. Didi met the devotees in 1975 and took Harinam from Srila Prabhupada in 1976. And it's a very special day for her. Is it? I think it's almost, well, it's parampara inspired synchronicity that you're actually speaking, offering your Pushpanjali on the disappearance day of Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj, because he's your Diksha Guru. So that's quite amazing. And you met Srila Gurudev somewhere before 1996, and I know it must be before 1996 because Didi, you played a very special place in my life where when I heard of Srila Gurudev, when I first went to Vrindavan with Budara in January 96, and I came back with my ex-wife in the following month, and we were in Ganga Prasad. I was probably having a nap. I don't know what I was doing there, or we were buying some cloth or whatever. And you came in and we had this very dynamic conversation. I don't even think you realized that we'd been told about Gurudev, and you were inspired to say, hey, you guys should go and see my guru. And Narayana Maharaj was leaving, this was in Vrindavan, Narayana Maharaj was leaving Mathura for Navadvip the next morning, I think by 7:30. So you were the reason why I was able to meet Gurudev before he came to the West. So I'm eternally grateful for that amazing circumstance in my life. A very warm welcome. And have you got a timer there, Didi, for 30 minutes, or do I need to jump in? Are you going to be okay?
You might want to jump in because I lose track of time, even though I have 2 clocks in front of me.
Okay, I'll tell you when you're 5 minutes. I'll tell you when you got 5 minutes left. Didi, a very warm welcome. So happy you've joined us. Please offer your tasteful, tasty Pushpanjali. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. My Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas present. But first, let me offer my, first I want to correct you, Prabhu, that I received Harinam in 1977 in February, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day with my mother and my sister. Yes. So I first of all offer my Dandavat pranam with my heart like flowers unto the lotus feet of my eternal spiritual master, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I would like to offer the same unlimited Dandavat pranam unto the lotus feet of my beloved Diksha Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, whose disappearance day, Tirobhav Titi, we're celebrating today. And I would like to offer the same unlimited Dandavat pranam with eternal gratitude to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, my beloved Shiksha Guru. And in the Guru Purnima festival, I was just getting started when I was given the 1-minute notice. And so I had an opportunity to describe what it was like to have darshan of Srila Prabhupada with the airport greeting and then the receiving his glance as a child, going up and giving him a flower and getting a cookie. And that was like a wave that I just took shelter of, and then my time was up. So when you asked my husband and I to speak on this day, at that time I didn't realize what day that was on the Vaishnav calendar. And when I did, of course, I realized that this was the opportunity to go to chapter 2 of Guru Tattva in this life for me. And so I'm hoping it's okay, actually, that I take this time for that and to honor this TT. And I would like to, just like as if you're worshiping the sun and you're using a candle or a ghee lamp, you're offering a little tiny flame to the source of flame. I want to use as many of his own words as possible to remember him. by, and I do have notes here so that I don't waste the time with some side story. Gurudeva always gave me permission to do that. So first of all, there's a beautiful prayer to Sri Gurudev written by Radhanatha Das Goswami. Nam Shrishtam Manumapi Sachiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagajam Urupurim Maturim Gostavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Aho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Sri Gurum Tam Natosmi. And in our Gurudev songbook is the most delightful translation actually given by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. So he says, I'm fully indebted to Sri Gurudev because he's given me Sri Harinam, he's given me the holy name. And he has given me, and it contains the highest form of thought, aspiration, and ideal. He's giving me the service of the great Savior, the son of Mother Shachi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is like a golden mountain indicating the way to Krishna Lila. Sri Gurudev has brought me to Swarup Damodar, who is Lalita Devi herself, the most intimate friend of Srimati Radhika. Then he has brought me to Sri Rupa, who was ordered by Mahaprabhu to distribute Rasa Tattva, the truths regarding transcendental taste and gradation in the Lord's Leelas. And then to Sanatan Goswami, who adjusts our position in relation to Raganuga Bhakti, or that devotional path of love that closely follows the moods of those perfected devotees whose relationship with the Lord is in the moods for which we aspire personally. Gurudev has brought me to Mathura Mandala, where Sri Radha and Govinda have their pastimes, where the forests, hills, and every creeper, shrub, and grain of sand are udipana, stimuli, to help me remember Radha Govinda. He has given me Radha Kund and Giri Govardhan, and aho, he has given me assurance of all of these, so I bow my head with deep respect unto his lotus feet. And how universal is this prayer? This prayer applies to Guru Tattva regardless of who our Gurudev is, because Guru is one. Guru is ultimately, well, Sakshat Hari, but Krishna's Acharya Leela. He's the representative in one of the many facets of Krishna performing this Leela of reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls. So special excerpts of his own writings are hereby being offered like a candle to the sun. So there's an amazing book full of his perfect Sanskrit compositions that are the most amazing poetry, the deepest prayer, containing just the essence of all the Vaishnava thought given to us by our pantheon of Sri Guru. And this collection starts with Sri Nityananda Dvadashakam. So it's 12 prayers glorifying the fountainhead of Sri Guru Tattva. And there are just a couple of points in a couple of the English translations that strike me to share. He says that Lord Nityananda's partial manifestation as Kiradakshaya Vishnu functions as the preservation principle of the entire universal creation, and he is actually localized as Paramatma in every living being through every birth. And interestingly, Srila Guru Maharaj's appearance day is shared with Virachandra Prabhu, who is the son of Lord Nityananda Ram, who is actually an incarnation in Gaur Leela of Paramatma, of that Lord that expands as the witness and guide with every living being. And another of the translations of this wonderful prayer to Lord Nityananda that has always struck me is that Lord Nityananda, he is what is the unique temperament in every jiva. Every jiva has unique moods, and Srimati Radhika is intent on sending her representatives. This is another aspect of the Guru Tattva, to come and pick all these flowers and offer these unique moods that can give unique pleasure to Krishna. And our Gurudev always would say, I have put you in my pocket and I'm offering you. I'm assisting Radhika in offering you to Krishna. And okay, so then I'm trying to decipher my notes here. I took quite a lot of notes and I don't want to rely totally on them, but I have no idea what that's all about. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to have to go off the notes. Actually, I have some bookmarks here too. So there are 3 wonderful prayers that he wrote in glorification of all of our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, and we all get to relish one of them every single morning. And so I will offer my Dandavat Pranams to that prayer as I go to the next one that is less familiar. And so this is 5 prayers offered on the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, and through hearing many recordings of his own voice and his own singing of this prayer, I want to just share 1 or 2 verses because it's so beautiful. And also hearing these verses gives a glimpse into who is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj and what is his relationship with his Guru and what is his ontology. And it's shockingly beautiful and very high. So I'll skip right to verse 3 and then go to 4. So, and this is in his own melody. Ati lokika gatitolika ratiko tuka vapusham Ati daivata mati vaishnava yati vaibhava purusham Shri Sanatana Raguru Paka Paramanugacharitam Suvicharaka iva jivaka iti sadhu biruditam Shubhadodaya divasevisha ravicha nijadaitam Pranamami chacharanantika paricharaka sahitam. And it means this: O Daita Das, your divine personality exists within the spiritual realm, and your manner of movement is quite gentle, while your divine figure fondly engages in the Lord's Shringara Ras pastimes. In addition, your external appearance radiates the prestige of a dignified renunciate, far, far superior to any class of demigod, and possesses the intelligence of a pure devotee. Every aspect of your distinct personality is exactly parallel with those magnificent devotees, Srila Sanatan, Srila Raghunath Das, and Srila Rupa Goswami. Due to your wonderful and precise judgment, the devotees have declared that you are the true life image of Sri Jiva Goswami. On your auspicious appearance day, I humbly offer my respects unto the tips of your lotus toes in the association of your favorite servitors. O Gurudev, you are the dearmost object of King Vrishabhanu's daughter, Srimati Radhika. And I have to read the next one too. So, Sharasi, I'm going to do it lower. Sharasi tata sukado taja nikata priya bhajanam lalita mukha lalana kula paramadara yajanam brajakanana bahumanana kamala priya nayanam Guna manjari garima guna Harivasana Shubhodaya Divase Visha Ravijani Jadaitam Pranamami Chacharanantika Paricharaka Sahitam. O Dayita Das, preoccupied with intimate service alongside the Lord's closest servitors, you are residing on the banks of the Saraswati River, seated inside a simple grass hut in the beautiful garden known as Svananda Sukata Kunj, always standing just before Srimati Lalita Devi within a group of Manjari servitors as Nayanamani Manjari. You are deeply absorbed in dedication's inward current. In the gardens of Raj, you are intimately disposed to Srimati Kamala Manjari, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the closest object of your affection, and your singing of the divine qualities found in Guna Manjari, Srila Gaur weaves a tent inviting Lord Hari to reside there. On your auspicious appearance day, I offer my obeisances unto the tips of your lotus feet in the association of your dearmost servitors. O Gurudev, you are the favorite object of King Vrishabhanu's daughter, Srimati Radhika. And he has similarly written a tear-jerking, amazing song that is 10 prayers offered in separation on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada's disappearance day. And that is very beautiful. And I'm just going to chant one of those, just the first one. And before I do that, I just want to remind us all that so prior to his departure, when he was about to leave Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he requested Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj to sing that wonderful song by Srila Rupa, no, by, oh my gosh, by Narottam Das Thakur, I think, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. And so he had this great honor of singing that song right as his guru was preparing to leave this world. And then when Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur left, all the clocks in the entire temple in that mat all stopped. And very shortly after, Srila Guru Maharaj wrote this song. And I won't read all 10, just the first. But it goes, Nite asmin nishante nayana jalapara snatta katra budanam ucharut krashatam shive shakapi sutaya diraya sviyakoshtam Prithvikat handakarahita nayana maniva vritayena hina yatra satatra shigram kripananayana he Niyatam kinkaroyam yatra so tatra shigram kripananayana he niyatam kinkaroyam. And listen how he captures the mood of that time. He says, at the close of night, early morn, there were crores of devotees freshly bathed, loudly wailing, their eyes overflowing with sorrowful tears of hopelessness. Srimati Radhika, that radiantly beautiful queen of Vraj and daughter of King Vrishabhanu, had summoned her intimate servant, Sri Dayita Das, to return to her divine camp, their personal family. Now, in the absence of Nayana Mani Manjari, the Earth planet has been vacuumed into the deepest vacant darkness. Oh, with no further delay, kindly accept this fallen soul as your servant. O Dayita Das, I am hoping against hope to be embraced within the fold of your divine company. And then rewinding the clock. So Srila Bhakti Rakshak Guru Maharaj joined his Gurudev's mission in 1926. And he was engaged in so many amazing preaching services, and there are such delightful pastimes of him going with just a couple other luminaries, and they would go door to door. And one time they were going door to door, and they were getting some rejection, and they went to one house, and the man, when they gave their opening line about how they're from Gaudiya, and this was when they were coming from Bagh Bazar Gaudiya in Kolkata, and they were needing to collect the funds for a festival, a major festival, and the man listened, and then he was stunned at the door, and he just said, "Wait here." And he went and got his wife. His wife had just had a dream of Srimati Radharani, who said in her dream, "I am Radharani of Gaudiya Math, and I would like your necklace," or either that or yes, I think it was the necklace. And so they donated that necklace, and it was so valuable that it paid for the entire festival. So that's one. But in 1930, in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj wrote an amazing ashtakam glorifying Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, his own Gurudev. And upon hearing this prayer, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was so pleased. He said, "Now I am confident that when I leave this world, there will be someone who can represent the Siddhanta." And then also in that same year, in 1930, he composed a most incredible prayer song of separation of Srila Bhakti Vinod. It's called the Sri Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dashakam. And definitely need to share one translation from that. So that is so amazing. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so happy hearing this Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dashakam that he declared that Sridhar Maharaj has caused the Thakur to reappear in these verses. So here's one verse, verse 5, just the translation. When he appears within the dark evening sky, the full moon gives life to all the medicinal herbs within the universe by his cooling rays. He also helps the stars to twinkle, and their nectarian pleasure increases as they illuminate the world. O Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you have appeared like the moon to enliven the meaning of the scriptures, which act like medicine to soothe the diseased souls of this world. Your advent gives pleasure to the saints who, like stars helped by the moon, can illuminate others simply by reflecting your light. How are we doing on time?
You're doing well, Didi. You've got another 8 minutes.
Woohoo! Okay. So I
You're
want
doing
to
great without the notes, by the way. Beautiful.
thank you. I want to share something personal, and it might be a little bit inappropriate, but I had the fortune, and I want to just say I'm in the category of the I never actually had the opportunity to be in front of him personally. I know him through his Harikatha, and I got to do service while living in his London mutt for 1 year. And I got to write and request Diksha, and he invited me to come to Navadvip and receive Diksha from him. Something happened in my life that made it so that I wasn't able to go to India, and he mercifully gave me Diksha in New Braj in 1986 through one of his very dear sannyasis. And I remember, and I'm just going to share this real quick, I was on a parikrama with Gurudeva in one of the earlier years in Mathura, and someone had found out that I never met my Diksha Gurudeva personally, in person, and they were saying something about how that's not strong enough. You're and giving me this idea that maybe my connection wasn't real enough, and it upset me. So I disappeared from the parikrama, and I went back to Vrindavan because we were in Mathura, and I opened the lock on my sister's room, who has like 400 cassettes, and I pulled a random cassette down. They're only named by date. I had no idea which one I was pulling down, and it was in the middle of the cassette. And right when I pressed play on the cassette recorder, I'm dating myself here, someone was asking Srila Sridhar Maharaj, many devotees received initiation from Swami Maharaj by letter. Is their connection real? And his answer was, the will of the Mahabhagavat is what makes that real. So, and then the next question someone asked was, some are serving with Gurudev in person, right in his association, and some are serving on the other side of the world. Who is closer to Sri Guru? And he said, it's by faith. So hearing really is everything, and we do see with our ears.
What did he say? What was his answer? I couldn't quite hear what you said.
He said, it is by faith. Whoever has the stronger faith is closer to Sri Guru. Okay, so, but I want to share that when I was living in the London mutt and doing service there, one very merciful devotee, Srimati Manjulali Didi, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, she allowed me to sew together a cutout of this robe, and I got to sew this together. It was already cut out, and it was already known by her that he would accept it, and so that is just a little something personal connection. And before I run out of time, I just want to say a few more things that I've written down that I don't want to miss being able to tell. I want to especially point out how amazing his writing is of the Sri Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram, which is, and I'm pretty sure if you Google that, you can find a PDF of it online. And it's 70 prayers, might be 72 with the little boon verse at the end, summarizing Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, capturing the essence of all of Sriman Mahaprabhu's principal pastimes, plus the essence of his Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, his unique contribution as of that point into our sampradaya of simultaneous oneness and difference, and also touching on Krishna's highest glories and the glory of Srimati Radhika. And I had actually selected 5 verses to chant, but I'm running out of time, so I won't be able to do that. But these were going to be a verse each representing the 5 life heirs of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is Ramananda Samvad, the Rath Yatra pastimes, Rupa Shiksha, Sanatan Shiksha, and Shikshastakam. So please find that prayer. It's amazing to actually sit down and have an intention ahead of time to chant the entire prayer, especially like on Gaur Purnim, if you have the opulence of standing in Ganga, from start to finish. The mercy of this author of Srila Sridhar Maharaj is available to anyone. He's a very high caliber Mahabhagavat who even now, through hearing, through coming in contact with his writings, through coming in contact with his moods, you can pray to him, and he's so merciful and so available. You can start a relationship with him. There's no inhibition of time, place, or circumstance. So that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada gave him the title Bhakti Rakshak. He's a guardian. He's a guardian of our devotion, and that will be forever. So with that, are we about at the end of the 8 minutes?
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't have an opportunity yet to glorify Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, and I hope I'll get another opportunity before this centennial year is up. That would be really special. I guess this had to be in 3 parts. So all glories to Sri Sri Guru Karanga, all glories to Srila Sri Srimad Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. May he sprinkle his mercy. I have to say one little thing. May he sprinkle his mercy on all of us. I just have to say this one thing with Srila Gurudev, that the first year that all these Westerners came to the Holy Dham, we walked from Varshana to Nandagram, and we met him at the Modi Bhavan in Nandagram, and Srila Gurudev was sitting on the cement platform of a well, and he was so full of love, and there's the most beautiful picture taken of him there. It's sort of a sepia tone image. His face is just radiating with just love, and he was really in the mood of giving. And I beamed over to him and I said, "Oh, Gurudev, we're always praying for a drop, a bindu of your mercy, please, and yet we see that you're showering us with mercy." And he said, "Yes, Swami Maharaj and Sridhar Maharaj are inspiring me to sprinkle you all." So with that, I offer my Dandavat Pranam to all the speakers, all the organizers, and I pray. I'm very unqualified, and obviously I had to use his words to glorify him because I don't have any real devotion. But I pray for the mercy of all the Vaishnavas and pray for continued association, because in your presence I feel the presence of my Sri Gurus. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo. Thank you.
Didi, your presentation today has inspired me to suggest that we do a mini festival for Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, because his Vani is so extraordinary and so nourishing to our relationship with our Guru, whoever, many people have got different Gurus. It's just extraordinary. And when is his appearance day?
His appearance day is his appearance day is during Kartik.
Yeah, that's right.
The lunar, I should memorize what's happening with the moon so that anyone could easily know. But anyway, it's printed in the Vaishnav calendar that Gurudev
maybe we'll wait till next year, because during Kartik too many other things are going on.
Yeah.
But there's so much to relish, and actually your presentation day, which was incredibly moving for me, and it really brought me closer to your Gurudev. It's almost like it was an anthology of his work. I mean, you were bringing out things that I'd never heard of before, and my request to you, and we're speaking quite frequently at the moment, would be it'd be very nice to compile those PDFs, and I can make them available to the group, because I'm sure everybody would really appreciate that little anthology that came from your presentation today, because if we can inculcate those moods through repetition, it would be tremendous for our bhakti as a major, major contribution. And at the beginning, you mentioned, I couldn't quite hear what you said about Nityananda's 12 Ashtakams. Is that also written by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj? It is. So I'm very greedy for that. And it was not ironic, but interesting you opened up with that, because of course I met your mum separately to you many years after I met you. and she's one of my favorite devotees, and she's a total Nityananda, bhakta. So maybe there's a link between mother and daughter there. It was amazing for me when I met her in Puri, and I thought, wow, this devotee is out of the box. She's fantastic. And then I didn't know she was your mum at the time. It was only afterwards I found out from her. So that was a nice connection. So thank you for that beautiful, wonderful sharing. And I'll be following up with you for maybe I can help you with the anthology. And we're definitely going to have a little Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj festival at some point on his Vani.
Jai Haribo.
Dandava Param Haribo. So we're going to.
There's just one thing I wanted to tell. I was in Vrindavan. Yes, I was in Vrindavan when Kilimba, on this day, I guess it was during Kartik, but she glorified Srila Sridhar Maharaj in front of Srila Gurudev.
Oh.
And in front of the whole assembly. And it was very beautiful. And so I was thinking that this is her seva to Srila Gurudev, to glorify Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
Beautiful. Thanks, Manjari.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to now, Kilimba, you're in California. Where in California are you?
We are in Oakland.
Oakland. Okay, great. So we're now going to go to your husband, Sriman Radhanatha Prabhu, and forgive me because my bio on you is not quite so strong. So you may forgive me, Kilimba, for making a mistake. You actually did tell the right thing. I wrote it down wrongly on your Harinam date, so my apologies. But Prabhu met the devotees in the early 70s, and you were given a Bhagavad Gita by Mula Prakriti, who I knew very well. An amazing devotee. Actually, she unfortunately passed on quite a few years ago. I was just on a conference call with her husband, Gopa, just now. And she gave you the Gita in 79. You joined the temple, and you met our beloved Srila Guru. Sorry? Oh, you're on mute, by the way. And then you met our beloved Srila Gurudev in 1999. But forgive me, I don't have your Harinam and Diksha dates. Maybe you can fill us in. But a very warm welcome to our program, and we look forward to your Pushpanjali. Haribol.
Haribol. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Very well. Yeah, very good.
Okay, good. My pranams to you. Thank you so much for inviting us to speak and remember Srila Gurudev. Umagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Vilitang Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Tinamane Jai Srila Gurudev. So it's very auspicious that we're able to remember our beloved Gurudev. And regarding meeting Srila Gurudev, I originally met, the first time I heard Srila Gurudev's voice was, I think, in 81. And it was from a cassette tape that Pushpadanta Prabhu had brought back from Keshaji Gaudiya Mat. And he was showing it to another devotee, letting him listen to Gurudev's kirtan. And when I heard Srila Gurudev's voice, I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "That's Narayana Maharaj." And I said, "Who's that?" He's like, "Oh, he did the sannyas ceremony for Srila Prabhupada." And I'm like, "Oh my God," because the kirtan was just so sweet. And now these recordings are out, but this was, fresh back from India. It was a cassette recording. And I said, I remember saying this, it came spontaneously out of me. I want him to be my guru, even though this was 81 and I was already initiated by an ISKCON guru. But by hearing his voice and the sweetness and the potency of his kirtan, I said, I want him to be my guru. And I remember Pushpadanta Prabhu saying, well, he doesn't initiate, even though I was already initiated. And I said, anyway, that just happened. And consequently, I got a copy of that cassette tape. I made copies for so many devotees, including Vrindavan Vilasini, Karta, so many people, because whenever I would play that, I used to do Didi worship at the LA ISKCON temple. And I would play that cassette tape. And anybody who heard that tape would say, who is this? And I was like, oh, this is Narayana Maharaj. And they would say, Radhanath, can you make me a copy of this cassette? So, I made numerous copies. Anyway, fast forward, and then I got to meet Srila Gurudeva sometime in 85, 86 at, Rupa Sanatan Temple in Vrindavan. And this was, Rupa Sanatan Temple had just been completed. In fact, even the bas-reliefs on the walls were not painted yet. They were still just that red stone. And the temple president of ISKCON Vrindavan, who was at that time, what's his name? Dinabandhu. He told all the devotees that year in Kartik, he said, anyone who wants to go to Srila Narayana Maharaj's temple, please meet us in front of the temple around 11:30. He's invited us all for lunch. And I'm like, whoa, okay, now's my chance. I get to meet Srila Narayana Maharaj. And so we went, there was just a few of us, and we all went. And we went to the temple to take prasad. And I remember he said, once you sit down, don't get up until all the sannyasis get up. And it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. I felt like I was transported back into the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the prayers, the prasadam prayers seemed like they went on forever. In fact, I was getting a little impatient because in ISKCON we sing the one prasadam prayers, but this was the last day of Kartik. So many prayers were being chanted, and finally I just surrendered and got into it and enjoyed the ecstasy that all the devotees were experiencing there. And prasadam just kept coming. And then when you thought you could not eat anymore, then the sweets started to come, and it just kept coming and coming, and such an ecstatic experience. And I remember seeing Srila Gurudeva in his room downstairs, speaking with everyone. And I was, coming from ISKCON, and I was amazed at how informal everything was with Gurudeva. He was sitting on his bed, and women were coming up and laughing and crying and joking. And it was just like, it kind of took my mind for a loop. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So I just went and sat down, and we took prasadam and we left. Then fast forward, being in ISKCON, and actually finally, I have to mention meeting Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. I remember coming back. I was temple president of the Hawaii ISKCON for 4 years, and I went to the temple president's meeting. I don't remember, maybe this was probably, maybe early 90s. And I was coming back on the airplane with Jayadvaita Swami, and I asked him, Maharaj, who do you think the most advanced devotee in ISKCON is? And he said, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And I said, I didn't know who that was. But when I got back to the Hawaii temple, sure enough, we got a phone call, and it was saying that Gaur Govinda Maharaj was going to be coming to the Hawaii temple for a few days. So I got to meet him. And he came, and of course, as you all know, he gave some of the most extraordinary Srimad Bhagavatam classes, and calling people out and just igniting the temple room on fire with his bhav bhakti. And I got to, since I was temple president, I got to go in his room and speak with him. And I remember asking him about the jiva tattva. And he said, no, we don't, I said, Maharaj, in ISKCON they say, because I never could believe that we fell from Vaikuntha. It just didn't make any sense that, that we could fall from a perfect place, because that's the way it's preached in ISKCON. And I asked him about this. He said, no, we don't come from Krishna Loka. We come from the Tashta region. I said, Maharaj, why does everybody preach this in ISKCON? He says, I don't know. He says, they asked me to write a paper, present a paper. I presented my paper, and they don't accept it. What can I do? And then I asked him about Guru Tattva, and he explained truly what is Guru Tattva, that Guru, because at that time I was initiated by an ISKCON Guru, and the other ISKCON Gurus were trying to, you should take reinitiation. And I was just like, no, I don't want to, I just wasn't feeling inspired to take reinitiation. So I asked him about Guru Tattva, and he said that the Guru has to be liberated. The Guru cannot be under the three modes of nature. He has to be a liberated soul in order to extract the devotee from the material world. So that was very satisfying. Subsequently, I ended up kind of moving out, leaving ISKCON. You know, not in my heart, because in my heart, you know, I knew this was the right thing, but I just kind of moved away from the institution. And one day I ran into a devotee, one of Prabhupada's disciples, on the street in Hawaii. And he said, "Oh, you know that Narayana Maharaj is in Hawaii right now." And I said, "Narayana Maharaj, you mean like Narayana Maharaj from Vrindavan?" And he said, "Yes, he's staying at Vrindavan's house on the North Shore." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, you know, and then he started to go on with his blasphemy. And I just said, "Hey, Prabhu, hold on. Thank you. And we'll catch you later." And I remember just making my way to the North Shore straight away. And when I arrived on the property, the first person that I saw was Srimati Shamarani Didi, who you know, I had a relationship with, because she stayed with us in the Hawaii temple for some time when I was there. And she said, "Oh, Radhanatha, you're here. You should come and take initiation from Srila Gurudeva." And I'm like, "Okay." So immediately she took me to Srila Gurudev's room, and Gurudev came out and she introduced me to Gurudev, and Gurudev looked at me and he said, "Okay, I will help you. Come tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So the next day, I remember the devotees were all there. At that time, all the devotees were camped out on Vrindavan's property on the North Shore. And Gurudev used to go there twice a year. I think he had just started that year. He would go in December, and then he would go again right before the Badger Festival, sometime in May. But so Srila Gurudev, of course, the next day I came, it was a Ekadashi day. The devotees shaved me up. I bathed in the ocean, and I went to Gurudev's room. And I was just the only one in the room, just me and him. And I sat there, and he asked me, "What are the mantras?" And I explained, showed him how I pronounced the mantras, and he corrected me on the pronunciation, and then gave me all the Gayatri mantras and gave me Harinam and explained to me the deep meanings of Sri Harinam. And like this, and it was beautiful. And I told him, Srila Gurudev, I said, "I have Radha Krishna deities." And he said, "Oh, has anyone done Pran Pratishta?" I said, "No." He said, "Bring them, I will do." Of course, he didn't do them that year, because they left early the next morning, they left. But the very next year, I brought my Radha Govinda, who I had been worshiping since '86, since I purchased them in Vrindavan, which is a whole other story. But so the next year I brought them when Gurudev came to Hawaii, and Gurudev installed them. And I asked him, because I used to always call them Radha Govinda, and I asked him, Srila Gurudev, I never told Gurudev this. I said, "Srila Gurudev, what is their names?" He looked at me kind of like strangely, like, "Radha Govinda ji, like, why are you asking me? You know their names." So I was, you know, they say I was in the right place at the right time. Like I said earlier, Srila Gurudev used to come twice a year to Hawaii, and his Hawaii time was his retreat time. It was his time for writing. There wasn't usually not many festivals, or usually no festivals. He would come in December and stay for a month or two, and then he would also stay in May, and he would stay for a month or two, and he would just write, continuously write. And he had a very beautiful program, Mangalartik, and he allowed us to come. Only a few devotees were allowed to come and be with him. You know, his morning program, like he always does, waking up very early in the morning, performing his bhajan. And a couple of times I got to enter into the room while Gurudev was absorbed in his bhajan. And if you can only imagine what Gurudev's bhajan is like. You know, he's sitting very tall and upright and completely silent and motionless, doing his bhajan. And then he would join us for Mangalartik. Everything was in one room. He would join it. He slept in that room, and that's where we would have Mangalartik in Vrindavan's living room on the North Shore. And then we'd do Tulsi Parikrama, and then he'd go on his morning walk. And we'd all go to jump in a car, and we'd go to a nearby park, and Gurudev would walk. And the water the grass was sometimes moist in the morning. So Vrindavan bought him these kind of reef walker shoes. They're pretty classic. I don't know if anybody's seen pictures of Gurudev walking in Hawaii with these blue reef walker shoes that he would walk around. And there was these very fragrant flowers there. Madhav Maharaj and Radhanatha would go and we'd pick flowers for Gurudev's puja. And we'd go on these morning walks. Then he would sit down like he always does and ask us questions and quiz us on verses and like this. So, and another thing is Srila Gurudev always would bathe every day in the ocean. And in fact, one time when he would allow us, we'd go and bathe with him in the ocean. And I remember the first time when I was very new devotee with Gurudev, and we went into the ocean and the waves were kind of big, not too big, but all of a sudden we're in the water, we're all in the water with Gurudev, and this pretty big size wave comes. So I went behind because Gurudev had his back towards the ocean and he was facing the shore. So I went and I grabbed Gurudev like around his body to shield him from the wave crashing on him. And so I grabbed him, and then after the wave crashed, he looked at me and he says, I am okay. And I was thinking, because Gurudev, how old was he then? 80, 90? 70. Was he 70? So I was, Gurudev's, I was thinking he's old, he's weak. And then Gurudev starts to backstroke out into the ocean and kicking his legs. And I'm like, I was thinking Gurudev, he couldn't swim or whatever, but he was showing what an excellent swimmer he was. And he started backstroking into the ocean and kicking his legs. And I was just like, wow, okay. And Gurudev used to love walking back and forth in the ocean. In fact, I remember once I came in the afternoon to see Gurudev. It's like 4 or 5 after his nap, because Gurudev so after he would swim, he would take his swim, then he'd come, do his anik, then he'd take lunch, and then he'd take a little rest. And then he'd wake up like 3 or 4. And once I came looking for Gurudev, and it was very casual, everyone was just, and I asked Madhav Maharaj, where's Gurudev? He said, I don't know, maybe he's walking on the beach. So I ran down the beach, and there's Gurudev. I could see Gurudev down the beach. So I ran to him and I paid my obeisances to him. And he was just chanting japa on the beach. And he used to like to walk where the water would come and touch his feet. And I got to walk with him. And he started telling me about his preaching that he's doing all around the world and how devotees are becoming enlivened and becoming more fired up, getting life back. And then after he would walk back up to the house, he asked me to rinse his feet with the water hose to take the sand off his feet. So this is some of the sweet moods that we had with Gurudev in Hawaii. I remember one time Gurudev arrived on Christmas Day in Hawaii. And it was really sweet because we were all kind of joking that, Santa Claus is coming to town, And so it was Christmas Day. We're all at the airport greeting Gurudev, and Gurudev comes off the plane and he has his big beard. And there he is, he's our Santa Claus. And the very first words that came out of Srila Gurudev's mouth was, Merry Christmas. And we were just all in ecstasy because we were not expecting that. And then he goes and he starts embracing us, and it was less like, that type of thing coming from ISKCON, that, your guru doesn't embrace you. And we had so many crazy misconceptions about what guru is, and they would accept so much worship. But Gurudev came out and very casually said, Merry Christmas. And we said, Merry Christmas, Gurudev. And it was just so wonderful to be with Gurudev. And I remember also one New Year's Day, we were there with Gurudev, and Gurudev asked Brajnath, has anyone sent me any Happy New Year's wishes? He wanted to know if Brajnath had received any emails where the devotees were offering, or phone calls where they were saying Happy New Year to Gurudev. And I remember Brajnath said, no, Gurudev, we didn't get any emails. And so Gurudev, I remember Gurudev being like, like not really sad, but just he was hoping to get some Happy New Year emails, and there was none. So I remember one New Year's Day, me and Kilimba, we thought, you know what? It's New Year's. Let's call Srila Gurudev. And I don't remember where he was. Was he in Hawaii, or we were living in Oakland then? And so we called Gurudev on New Year's Day, and we said, Happy New Year's, Gurudev. And he was very happy to receive our call. And after asking me how I was, and he said, where's my Kanaka Manjari? He wanted to talk to Kilimba. So he got to speak with Kilimba. But I had some other things. Gurudev once asked me to bring Tulsi because there was no Tulsi at Vrindavan's house in Hawaii. So I used to keep, Tulsi grows very beautifully in Hawaii. So I brought a beautiful Tulsi Devi, and then nobody was taking care of it. And I guess it somehow dried up, and Gurudev told me, he says, they are not taking care of your Tulsi here. She was so beautiful. She was one of the most beautiful Tulsis I've ever seen, but take her back because nobody's taking care of her here. And also Gurudev, he initiated my two sons, Sadhu and Rish, and they were just very young. They were only like 8 or 10 at the time. And I remember once they were there, Gurudev used to like to watch the ocean. He used to sit at Vrindavan's porch and watch the waves, and he would chant his japa. And I remember my two boys were there sitting with Gurudev. They were just very young. And I said, okay, boys, please come, let Gurudev's chanting. Gurudev said, no, they can stay. They are my children. And I remember once, because my boys kind of grew up in ISKCON atmosphere, and they said they were all happy after they met Gurudev. They never had any taste for chanting or hearing Harikatha, and they were just like to play. But after meeting Gurudev and getting so much love and affection from Gurudev, they used to chant every day on their beads and sit in the front, in the very front of Gurudev's class. And I remember once telling my children, I said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? What's gone into you guys? You guys are now chanting and sitting in the front of the class? And he said, and my boys said, yes, because it's Gurudev. We have to sit in the front of the class. And I remember once my boys asked me, so is Gurudev going to come to the temple? Meaning the ISKCON temple. And I said, oh no, he's not allowed there. They're like, what? He's not allowed at the temple? And I said, no. They said, why? I said, oh, the GBC says they can't come. He said, and then my kids, who were just kids, didn't know what the GBC was. They said, the GBC? Who's that? Are they devotees? They thought maybe that there was some, local institution who was keeping Gurudev. They were questioning, are they devotees? They can't be devotees if they're saying Gurudev can't come to the temple. So anyway, it was very sweet like that. And I remember, I'm sure many devotees have had this experience of Srila Gurudev reading the mind of the disciple. And I remember once, before I met Kilimba, and I was single at that time. I was single. I was divorced, and I was thinking I needed to get married. And I went that morning walk. I went and was going to ask Srila Gurudev if I could get married. And I remember before I got to ask him, Gurudev sat down and he looks at me and he says, "Why do you want to get married?" He said, and he started naming so many reasons why it's not good if one's married. He said, and I said, but Gurudev, most of Mahaprabhu's associates were all householders. He said, yes, but they were pure Vaishnavas. There's so many obstacles when one gets married, and your time and energy will be deviated from bhajan and like this. But then later Madhav came to me and he says, Gurudev knows that it's probably best for you if you get married. He was, Gurudev was cutting all my arguments and trying to defeat me, but Gurudev knew that it would probably be good for me to be married. And I remember once also Srila Gurudev would how much more time do I have? I think my time's coming up, huh?
You're good, Prabhu. You've got a bit like Kilimba, 8 minutes.
Okay, cool.
You also
all right. So anyway, once I got to see Srila Gurudev, he was taking prasadam, and he would just sit down and take prasad and eat with his hands on the floor. And I walked into the room, and Gurudev was just finishing up, and he had just finished taking prasad, and he got up and he was walking to the bathroom to wash his hands. And he looked at me, and the way I see it is that, Srila Gurudev is always effulgent, but sometimes most of the time, he turns off his effulgence. But every once in a while, he may allow a devotee to see his glowing effulgence. And so that time after Gurudev, we know Srila Gurudev, he's taking prasadam. It's not an ordinary thing. He's with Radha and Krishna. So after he got up and walked by me, he looked at me, and he had this beautiful glowing effulgence. And he looked very youthful and effulgent. And he looked at me, and I was speechless. I was just like, and he said, "You were okay?" And he walks right by and went to the bathroom. And then I remember Madhav Maharaj, he immediately went like a very anxious person, and he went and sat down on Gurudev's seat and started taking some of his Mahaprasadam. And I took note of that, because I was thinking, Madhav Maharaj gets to take Gurudev's Mahaprasad every day, but he still honored that Mahaprasad with such eagerness, like it was his first time ever doing it. And I just took note what a wonderful relationship that Madhav Maharaj and Gurudev have. And then Madhav Maharaj handed me the plate and said, "Okay, now wash Gurudev's plate." Once Srila Gurudev, now we were in California, and Gurudev, he came up to me after his nap, 4 o'clock. We were staying in Nevada. He was staying at a friend of ours' house, Surrender Prabhu. And Gurudev said, "I have some pain here in my back. Can you take me to some doctor or recommend something?" And the interesting thing is that I had that same pain right there in that same place. It was like my back needed adjustment. So at that time we were going to a chiropractor, and I said, "Yes, Gurudev, I know a chiropractor, we can take you." So it was Sunday. Nobody was working. So I looked in all the yellow pages. That was, the yellow pages days. And I found one who works from home. So we got to take Gurudev to the chiropractor, and that chiropractor adjusted Srila Gurudev. And we were there. It was Radhanatha was there, Madhav Maharaj was there. Even I remember Ramachandra Prabhu was there. And we were all very worried, and we had to tell the chiropractor that Gurudev had some surgery. He had some neck surgery or something, so spinal something. So please be very careful. But that person was very gently and adjusted Srila Gurudev, and Gurudev felt better. And in fact, in Badger that year, because that was right before the Badger festival, in Badger that year, Gurudev came up to me after one class, and he said, "Can you arrange for me to see this doctor again?" And I said, "Yes, Gurudev." And so that year, when Gurudev got back to the Bay Area, we arranged for that chiropractor to come again to see Srila Gurudev. In fact, that chiropractor lent Gurudev one of his very expensive machines to help. It was like an infrared machine to help Gurudev with some healing. One question, while Gurudev, this will be my last little story I tell, but during Gurudev's stay at Surrender's house in Nevada, which is in the Bay Area, after a morning walk, I got to ask Srila Gurudev a question. And at that time I was studying Shikshashtika, Gurudev's book, and I wanted to know what was in the first verse of Shikshashtakam. The verse is, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. I remember when I quoted this verse to Gurudev, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, I remember seeing Srila Gurudev's eyes kind of go back, like he went into ecstasy, and he was tasting this verse on a very deep level. So the section that I had in question was Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. I said, "Gurudev, what is this Shreya Kairava Chandrika?" And he gave he said, just as in nighttime, in the evening, when the moon rays come out and they nourish the white water lotus, the kumud, and cause it to beautifully bloom. He said, so similarly, Sri Krishna's Sankirtan diffuses the moon rays of Bhav Bhakti, causing the white lotus of good fortune to bloom for the jivas. And then he went on and on to explain every other section of that first verse of Shikshashtakam. So anyway, on this, there's so many more. I took little notes of different little memories I had of Gurudev. And of course, you know, these are the most cherished moments of our life, is to be with our beloved Gurudev and to get his pat on the head, to get his embrace. And I got to wash Srila Gurudev's feet numerous occasions. And even once, Kilimba told me to tell the neck beat story. Once Srila Gurudev, I was being a rascal and I was not following his instructions. And Gurudev once, we were on a morning walk in Hawaii.
Before you met me.
Before I met Kilimba, she says. And Gurudev, we were on a morning walk and I was standing next to Gurudev, and all of a sudden he reaches out with his left hand and grabs my neck beads like this. And he's talking to the devotees on the walk. He's saying, sometimes a disciple who's not very obedient to his Gurudev, sometimes Gurudev has to come and drag the disciple and pull him. And I remember Gurudev grabbing my neck beads with his full fist. And I'm thinking, that's it, I'm finished. He's gonna yank my beads off. He's gonna reject me. And that's it, I'm done. And Gurudev, then he just got me like this and he just pushed me away. And I was just, oh God, that's it. And I was just crying. I was like feeling so low. And I went and sat down on the wall, some wall in a distance. And Maharaja came up to me and he said, Radhanatha, what austerities have you been performing that Gurudev loves you so much? And I was just thinking, what such a rascal I am. That Gurudev, he should totally reject me, but he's still giving mercy. And even to this day, Gurudev is still giving mercy to such a low person as myself. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful
I think you're muted.
That was a beautiful offering and a wonderful finale to the evening, which has been a tremendous contributions from everybody. What I took away from what you shared, and it was so beautiful. You really brought Gurudev's mood present for me. I had so many experiences with him, and the three things I noted was the intimacy, the informality. You mentioned the word informality many times, and that intimacy and informality just transmitted so much sweetness. So he is actually the living embodiment of all of the teachings that we're trying to imbibe. And that by you expressing that Vapu, actually you're expressing the Vani in the Vapu. That's what I felt. There was actually no difference between Vapu and Vani. And so everything you explained was like the beautiful Vedas, Bhagavatam, Krishna, Radharani, Rupa Goswami, all embodied in one single personality. And you made that very present for me. So thank you so much. Did we meet?
I know you had so many wonderful experiences also with Srila Gurudev, and I don't know if you've given yours yet, but hopefully one day we'll get to hear all your stories.
I was on the Indian one, and I think I had 35 stories. So what I did is I numbered them, and the audience just said, okay, I want number 7. And then I would like pick it out of a hat, or which story. We just did these random stories. It was a lot of fun. But tonight was an amazing journey. We started with Srimati Manjari Didi in Hawaii, talking about how Gurudev put her on the spot, asking her what was the internal mood of Srila Prabhupada, and her being like stunned by the question, and then she expanded from there. And then we moved over to Holland with Srimati Nandini Didi, and such a sweet Katha, explaining how when she was 11, she just happened to meet Gurudev and didn't even pay obeisances because she had no idea about the etiquette and was scolded by her mother. And she then talked about the internal and external aspects of Diksha. And then we moved to your wife, Srimati Kilimba, Didi, who such a beautiful exposition on the Vani of Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. And then Prabhu, a beautiful finale bringing Gurudev's sweetness home to us all. When did you both marry, by the way? Which year?
Srila Gurudev married us in Hawaii in 2004, right?
2005.
2005. And
Okay.
that's a whole amazing story. How Gurudev married us with 1 day's notice, and how we went up, we approached, I'll tell the brief story. It's 30 seconds.
Okay, go for it.
We got, you asked. So we went to see Srila Gurudev on his Vyas Puja, and we approached his Vyasasan together. And Gurudev had never seen us together. He knew Kilimba, he knew me. And he looks at us and he says, he went to Kilimba, "You want to be with him?" And she said, "Yes, Gurudev." And then Gurudev said, "Very good. So you always be together. You serve me and you serve Shri Radha and Krishna." And then so we went to Brajnath after. We said, "This is what happened. Does that mean we're married?" And Gurudev said, "Come tomorrow, 8 o'clock." Brajnath said, "Come tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Bring 3 garlands." So we went. Gurudev was sitting on the porch and at Mula Prakriti's house on the North Shore. We walked up in Hilo. Yeah, on Hilo. And we walked up to him and we have these garlands. We're dressed nicely.
No, I asked Gopavrinapal Prabhu to go up ahead of us just to make sure this was actually going to happen.
And Gurudev looks at us and he's like, "What's going on here?" And Gopavrinapal Prabhu says, You're marrying Radhanatha and Kilimba." And so Gurudev kind of smiles, and he was actually bringing Gurudev a coconut. So he hands Gurudev this huge coconut with a straw in it, and Gurudev starts to drink it. And he's drinking it, and he's drinking it, and he's drinking it. In one gulp, not one gulp, but one without removing his mouth from the straw. Finally, you start hearing, the end of the coconut. Gurudev finished and he hands the coconut to Gopavrindapal, and he says, "Bring me some flowers."
Wait, I have to just say that before the coconut was this tense moment where we didn't know if Gurudev was going to actually do it, because he doesn't like to do weddings. Yeah. And we were seated, and it was very tense because we were barely there by the skin of our teeth. And then the coconut thing happened, and we're all like looking down.
Then he let out a burp.
Yeah.
He let out, he went, "Bah!"
Really big burp, and that just broke the tension. And suddenly everything became possible. And Gurudev was laughing, and he was in a jovial mood, and he told Radhanath to stand up. We had the garlands, and he gave him one of the garlands to put on me, and he told him to stand up, and he gave him our vows. He told Radhanath to say, "I promise to always treat you honorably and submissively." And then he had me say the same to him. And then he said one other thing, that never do anything without consulting the other. And I got from that it's about mutual respect. And the thing about, submissive, it reminded me of that statement made by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saying, the only true relation between souls is in obedience to one another as constituents of Sri Radha. And so I just took that as so beautiful, that I promise to always treat you honorably and submissively, that it's like he's keeping us very close.
And then Gurudev says, "So now you should cook a feast for all the devotees." And I said, "Yes, Gurudev, we're cooking tonight." He says, "And you should pay for it." And then we said, "Well, Gurudev, we don't have any money," because we barely, like Kilimba says, we made it there by the skin of our teeth. And Pushpadanta said, "Don't," because Pushpadanta was there. He's been with me at all the most significant points in my life. And he said, "Don't worry, Gurudev, I will give them the money.
I'll loan them.
I'll loan them the money." So we anyway, that's the brief story. Kilimba could give you a 2-hour story.
What Kilimba said reminds me of that interaction about submission. Reminds me of when Ananga Mohini and I were with him He said, when you have argument, you should apologize to her and she should apologize to you.
Hey, Prabhu, since we have you right here, right now,
Yeah.
I've heard Kilimba told me the story that you probably already told us on another.
No, he already told it when he first came up, before I
No,
started.
the one about, I'll shave my head
Oh,
if
yeah.
you get, can you tell that story quickly?
Okay, so I was due to take Diksha. But
Right.
after Diksha was in 1996 Kartik, I was due to go to Japan. And I didn't want to shave, this shaving up business, T-Lac shaving up, it all seemed a bit weird to me, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm a middle-class boy from London. What do I want to do that for, right?
Right.
And so I went to Gurudeva and I started negotiating with him, like, Gurudeva, yeah, I understand you have to shave up, but can you make an exception for me, please? He's like, no. I think I pestered him at least 5 times. Like, I really pushed it. Yeah, I could tell. So finally I said, okay, Gurudev, I'll shave up, like as if I was, I mean, it was just so outrageous. I said, okay, I'll take Diksha as long as you give me your hat. So he gave me his hat, and I wore the hat all the way around Japan afterwards when I flew off from India.
What was it, like a beanie cap?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
But that's the nature of the relationship with Gurudev. That was the intimacy and the informality and the sweetness. And I kind of felt with Gurudev, listen, I know this guru thing is pretty heavy, pretty intense, but I kind of felt like he wanted me to be myself. He wanted us all to be natural. And if I overstepped the mark, he'd give me a slap. I wasn't really worried about that. I thought, if I get it wrong, he'll tell me. I don't have to be, minding my P's and Q's too much. And that makes you just you can't believe it, like that you can have such a relationship with such a personality. It's just inconceivable.
Yeah, maybe on the next time I'll talk about the slaps, the punches, and the kicks that I got from Srila Gurudev.
Oh, that would be good. I think we're going to have you guys back on. That was totally awesome.